Idris. So Juan is actually really strong on weapon Idris, so they're probably going to go with the weapon Idris here and then potentially ban Kath, because Kath is a hard counter into Idris, so they definitely need to ban Kath because Sky is also banned, or take Kath with Idris.
We'll have to see where they go next with this draft. Still a lot available on the line right now. I'm super curious to keep my eyes on Lightning T as well. Lightning T, very much a star player of this roster. I feel like we didn't get to go too in detail about NRG, but this is definitely a roster coming from the challenge battles that Lightning T he's been a huge contender for, and he's actually made it to the VG8 before.
Yeah, both Lightning T and Juan Hernandez have been in the top 8 previously. But in one of his former teams, Lightning T almost single-handedly, it seemed, got his team to the Vainglory 8. It was Evil 8 at the time, and then couldn't play. I believe he left the country for a few months to go to China, and then his team just immediately got relegated back down to challengers without him there. So it is obviously a very key component to any roster that he is a part of. And if this Idris goes to him, which we've seen Idris in the jungle, I love Idris on incredibly talented, mechanically skilled players, because I feel that Idris is one of the highest skill-capped heroes that has been released in Vainglory.
Yeah, and a lot of that down to how different the styles of weapon and CP are. There's a lot of different directions you can kind of go with Idris, but Samuel going to be banned away, so not wanting that to fall into the hands of Lightning T. And now NRG looking towards their second pickup of the game. What are we expecting here, Sweet
Arden most likely, or even potentially Fortress, but I think Arden will most likely be the pick here that they're going to go with. Actually, Lyra, they're going to pick Lyra into Vox here, which makes sense because Lyra is good with the frontline melee like Idris. So I think over here, Kath looks really good. Kath and Lance look really good in this composition here. So I think Kath or Lance will come out, and then potentially we might see Koshka or Baptiste or even Glade from the side of GANKSTARS. So we'll see what Xeno wants to play, or even CP Blackfeather. So Arden's going to come out instead of Kath or Lance here, but Arden is countered by Lyra though.
Yeah, we'll see how they're going to continue to do this draft. Definitely a lot of things available. Still very open on this one. We saw Xenotech when he was in London playing, I mean, at the time it was almost exclusively Grumpjaw and then Koshka. They were the two very, very high impact junglers we saw him playing. He's only got 5 seconds to pick. We'll see what he's going to lean on this time, because Grumpjaw is banned and it is going to be that Koshka.
And then NRG is probably going to take CP Blackfeather, because I know Lightning T does play that, so let's see if that's going to come out of NRG here.
Is there an argument to pick up the Baptiste here?
Yes, because you have high sustain, and that's it counters Koshka with Lyra. Definitely is going to beat Koshka in the early game and be able to fight against her in jungle. So Baptiste may come out if Lightning T plays it though. That's the key there.
Yeah.
So let's see who's going to go with the CP Blackfeather or even Baptiste potentially here.
And that's one of the things about these teams that have been recently promoted. You don't expect, hero pools and things like that to be quite as padded out as the teams that have been in the Vainglory 8 for quite some time.
But at the same time, if their hero pools are padded out, you don't necessarily know that, because all you have to go off of is their performance in the Challengers, which was on a previous patch and was against vastly different teams. So they're putting a lot of thought into this last pick as they try and figure out where they want to go with it.
And the key thing as well is we don't necessarily know what their comfort picks are always going to be with these challenge battles teams, but also GANKSTARS might not necessarily know. It's quite difficult to scout your opponents when they haven't necessarily been on broadcast as much as you have. And on the other side of things, the side of it, wow, Scarf.
That's really risky, because Scarf will get destroyed by Koshka Arden early game. So they have to have really smart rotation. And Idris is actually really weak early game. So GANKSTARS, I think, wins this draft, and I think I'm going to give the game to GANKSTARS potentially here.
Okay, so what about you, Bacon? How are you feeling that draft's gone?
I think the early game definitely goes to GANKSTARS, as long as they can keep that aggression up. This is something that we've said multiple times throughout today. If they go for that early aggression and find those trades and continue to press that advantage, GANKSTARS definitely take it. If it goes late, I think it starts to swing back the other way.
We'll have to see if that is going to be the case. We're going to pass it to our casters in just a second, but make sure to get involved on social media using that hashtag Vainglory8. Let us know whether you're a fan of NRG or whether you're a fan of GANKSTARS and who you think is going to be taking this one, who you think has won the draft. But let's get over onto the Halcyon Fold.
All right, well, I think Jaws might be experiencing
I completely muted myself, AJ.
There we go.
That was my bad. So, week number 1, day number 1 of the North American VG8. My name is George, joined by AJ. GANKSTARS versus NRG. The old guys on the scene versus the new kids on the block. This is going to be an interesting best of 3.
It is going to be interesting. I had the liberty of seeing both of these teams play actually yesterday at the Mobile Masters against Rox Armada. Now, both of these teams lost to Rox Armada, but seeing the way that they played against them was definitely pretty interesting. GANKSTARS with this new lineup definitely feel a little bit different to the way that they felt when they had Wrecked. And NRG, Lightning T, we talk about him a lot. I think it's for very good reason after seeing that game most recently. The team does seem to really rely on him to make a lot of the big plays. And I'm curious to see if he can actually do that here against GANKSTARS.
Ooh. Bradley taking a fair bit of damage in that early game. One as well, just kind of taking a very aggressive route. Taking that mustache brush, and Lightning T is going to be here as well to just fend off Veins. Now, Arakizoro is in the lane versus all 3 of them. NRG just trying to make their way on top of him. That Spitfire is going to do a fair bit of damage if it lands, but it does end up going a little bit wide. Arakizoro is just going to have to back off. And now, NRG, they are new kids on the block in terms of their roster. They've been around for a long time. Obviously, Tasty Bacon was talking about it, but under this one banner, it's going to be a very slow start to them, I feel, especially coming into this game specifically. It just takes a long time to scale up. So does Scarf. Can't get the words out of my mouth, apparently. And with Bradley as well there to kind of help them through the early stages of the game. You've got to kind of put all the eggs in GANKSTAR's basket, especially at the start, just because of the amount of early game potential that they do have. But Xenotech in a lot of trouble here. Lightning T's got that Spitfire on him. He's doing a fair bit of damage with that twirly death. Bradley's going to chase him, but he might just go down for first blood here. Veins comes in for the save, but Lightning T picks up the kill. Now Veins in a lot of trouble, burning away. Does use that Vanguard actually to get to one of those little creeps, but I'm not sure it's going to matter. NRG are just going to chase him down. Can he Vanguard over the wall? He can. Will the Spitfire land? Only just misses. And actually, Vayne gets away with his life.
That was so close. Like, Veins, if he had any perk other than the Arden perk there, dies. Like, Arden's perk gives him a little bit of healing every time he takes damage. He needed that because the Fan the Flame stacks were sitting on top of him and being renewed constantly by Lightning T. That was a very weird invade by Xenotech. He did not have support of his team. Not only that, but he chose to make a bit of a movement towards the back camps underneath of that wall, when really, if he wanted to get to safety, he needed to back towards the shop anyway. So very overly aggressive, I guess, from Xenotech. I do like that Lightning T capitalized on it. I think when a Scarf gets ahead early on, things can get very scary. It's a little bit like that Baron, but perhaps in some ways even more so, and it's spiking even more early because of the fact that in the jungle you get a lot of levels very quickly. That's great for a Crystal carry because they get points in their abilities, which means they do a lot more. So if Lightning T can capitalize on this, things could be great here for NRG in Game 1.
Yeah, that it can. And one kind of interaction I've just been kind of mulling over in my head is that Gauntlet with the Dragon's Breath as well. I mean, a couple of times we've seen that Scar being drafted in with the Arden just to make sure that you can lock them all down and the Dragon's Breath can land and them 3 members. You said the late game scaling of Scarf can be quite devastating if he gets ahead early. But that's completely the opposite of what's going to happen in this game. Veins is going to be able to segregate that Scarf, and it's going to be very easy for Arakizoro to maybe deal with him, especially Xenotech if he can get on top of him as well. But I think a lot of these team fights are going to have to come down to who can protect Lightning T the most, you know. Is it going to be Bradley or is it going to be Juan Hernandez just making sure that they have someone else to kind of deal with in that in the back line? I mean, Xenotech, you know, very high pressure jungler on this Koshka, and with Lightning T being their kind of star player on NRG, he has a safe early game. I mean, late game, he's really going to make these calls shine and these kills happen as well. Bradley being chased out though. No Swirly Death is going to do a fair bit of damage. Only level 3 versus Xenotech level 5. He jumps on Juan Hernandez as well. Veins will be here to match the aggression. Same with the Arakizoro, but NRG coming up only a little bit worse on that trade.
It's all about the bulwark there. Lyra Bradley did a great job of holding it a very long time. She didn't panic, you know, didn't use it too early, and as a result, it actually blocked Pouncy Fun, I believe. So that was really useful at getting Bradley out of there. You're talking about the combo. Oh, hang on, Root.
Oh, hang on a second. Trient double roots them. EU Trient finds and helps the kill go over to Xenotech. Lightning T ends up falling. Juan Hernandez gets jumped on. That twirly death and Pouncy Fun is no match for him. Xenotech picks himself up a 2-piece.
That cannot feel good. I mean, that is pretty much a kill that happened purely because of the root, or at the very least, the fact that both kills happened was because of the root. If it had only been one, very different story. Plus, Juan Hernandez, cannot use mobility skills whilst he is rooted, and he definitely wanted to use his jump to reposition there. So nice capitalization by GANKSTARS. I guess they just saw the opportunity. That's partially a vision problem. You know, when you're looking at NRG and what they could do to mitigate those sorts of plays or perhaps avoid them, getting more vision down would be a good way. When you against Koshka, you know that you need vision, right? We've already seen Xenotech go for a play, perhaps when he shouldn't have, but you know, NRG, they definitely need to be aware of what rotations GANKSTARS are making. And also, you know, again, another thing that could have been a good tip-off to NRG is that they did not see a lot going on in the lane, right? And you kind of expect that against the Scarf, especially.
I mean, definitely makes sense. The thing is with his Scarf as well, though, hitting that Eve of Harvest power spike's going to be pretty big for him. Same with Xenotech, hitting that Aftershock as well. Poison Shiv on the side of Rakizoro with the Sorrow Blade on one. Now everybody is hitting those power spikes that are so critical to this first turret and the defense or offense of this first turret as well. I mean, let's look at the side of GANKSTARS right now. Let's look at a little bit of their history. Coming second in London to Cloud9. Cloud9 did sweep them, yes, but still coming second at a Unified Championships. A team that is kind of synonymous for getting fourth place a fair amount of the time. I mean, you've got questions above Vaing's head right now. We know he's a good player. We know he's a good captain player. He come from Immortals, but now joining this roster of GANKSTARS, it's going to be so incredible to see if he can actually blend and like mold with the team, because he's doing an absolute wonder right now.
He's doing a great job so far in this game. I like the fact... Oh, in fact, actually, GANKSTARS is finding another kill. Lightning T, he needs vision. Bradley needs to give him vision.
Not happening. Not happening, AJ. That Crystal Sentry is going to go down. Vision's not going to be there, and GANKSTARS now rotating towards that lane. Juan Hernandez just tried to get a few chakrams across the minions in order to push them back so they can't pressure that first tier turret in game. As Bradley's kind of field day, maybe a flare gun or, you know, even some really early investigation of the scout trap, just placing them all around their jungle because they know Xenotech's going to want to invade with this early level advantage and item advantage as well.
So the thing is, that was 2 back-to-back kills whilst Lightning T was taking the forward Treant. And the reason why GANKSTARS was able to do that is a few things. The first is that there's not good vision against it, right? But the second is that they've timed that respawn, and they know that Lightning T doesn't have mobility. So the thing is, Lightning T kills these camps very quickly, and what he wants to do is just walk up, kill it, and get the heck out of there. But he doesn't have mobility, there's no vision, and GANKSTARS knows when that camp's going to come back up. You know, these are pro players, they time that kind of thing. So they're able to just get there, and then Lightning T literally can't do anything. Like, he has to Spitfire it from his side bush, and then, you know, risk it just getting stolen away.
Oh man, speaking of Lightning T and seeking things getting stolen away, Vaing's takes a chakram, does end up using the boots to kind of skedaddle out of there. Now Xenotech, or like you said, timing those camps very, very well. Did manage to take that first, that front treant away from the side of NRG. Now, with War Treads being picked up, a very common first completed item we see on the Ardens. Has hit the level 6 power spike as well. It's going to be pretty bad news for Lightning T if he gets caught in that.
Yeah, so just to be a bit more specific with my point, too, there's only one scout trap that I can see on the map right now. It's actually in the mustache bush on NRG's side of the map. For them, that is, not overall. So that doesn't help against the play that GANKSTARS has made twice, you know? They've specifically been making the play to go for the front Treant, which you're not going to see them make that play in the mustache. So definitely something that NRG needs to think about. They've got flares now, but that's not permanent vision. And you see, this is what I'm talking about. You can see GANKSTARS are here right now because they have the timing.
Yeah, I mean, Cannon Frenzy on Juan. He does end up blocking it. In fact, really sharp reflexes on that one, but not sharp enough because he almost instantly dies. To Xenotech ends up picking up the kill with the 2 early death. The gauntlet did come down to lock them in place. Bradley is going to have to sprint away using those boots. Lightning T is going to come forward as well. Does get the Spitfire on Xenotech, but Bradley's just going to get chased down. Arakizora is going to be here as well. There goes the Patsy Fun on Lightning T, and he almost falls to Xenotech, but they're just going to chase him up, pick him off, and that will be a triple for GANKSTARS, an ace as well, and a turret.
NRG really do not have the same meta sort of macro play that GANKSTARS is right now. It's not comparable. GANKSTARS is basically timing that spawn, and every single time the front treants come out, they've gotten something off of it. We talk sometimes about later in the game, like, teams can leverage Kraken to make something happen. They can say, we're going to threaten killing your Kraken, as a result you have to come fight us. Or we're going to use Kraken to stop you from being able to shove out your wave when it's really stacked. Bradley getting caught out again here. I don't see him really getting out of this one. But, you know, it's as I say, right? You can leverage these objectives later in the game when they're of high value. GANKSTARS is somehow making that same kind of strategic play using a front Treant. Like, that is really showcasing how strong they are right now. Xenotech does have to be careful, though.
Yeah, it's have to be very careful. Lightning T doesn't have the ultimate available to him. Decided not to actually skill anything in it just yet. Level 9 as well. It might just be a bug on my half, but no, he just took a point in it there. So actually picking up that first tier on the ultimate. Yeah, Xenotech was in a lot of trouble, but does have a little bit of regen to his name. That gold miner will end up going down to GANKSTARS right now. Superior map rotation, you've got to say, from them. Just being able to take every tiny and small advantage, whether that's a camp, whether that's even just a little bit of vision, like you're mentioning earlier, to their name, and just pushing it forward from there.
All right, so I like the fact that Bradley has picked up a couple of minion candies. I think that will help them when it comes to, like, if they are losing a fight, they need to be able to do something to stop the turret from getting pushed quickly, because you've seen already 2 turrets go down in favor of GANKSTARS. They certainly have the ability to make a fight happen and then get something off the back of it. But at the same time, I'm still not seeing as many scout traps as I would like, and flares don't really do the same thing. Like, they're a very different kind of vision. Koshka now has an Aegis as well, and seeing as Lightning T has really, really decelerated in his progress, this is getting to the point where Xenotech is just going to stick on top of him pretty much regardless of any kind of kiting or damage attempts from Lightning T. It's going to be about Juan, I think. I think Juan Hernandez needs to kill Xenotech quickly, and Bradley needs to stop Arakizor from getting into the fights. That's how NRG actually deals with these engagements from GANKSTARS right now. Unless, I mean, the alternative for them from a game-wide perspective is just to sort of farm up and play safe.
It does look like we're quickly heading into a quick pause. So that'll be resumed very, very quickly. But yeah, that vision game, it's just not on point right now for NRG. Bradley, you know, he's got 3 flares, 2 scout traps, 2 minion candies, sorry, in the inventory. I mean, I'm very guilty of picking up a first item flare gun. So, you know, I mean, you could take a leaf out of that book. I mean, early contraption wouldn't go amiss either. Kind of got to put that in mind and got to kind of put that in the back of your head, right?
This is a tough spot for any captain. I think going for a contraption is typically best in an even game or one where you're ahead. If you're going for it when you're behind, then any scout trap you put down gets cleared, and it doesn't really pay for itself in the same way. If you're ahead, it's fantastic, and if you're even, it's really good too. But if you're behind in the way that NRG is, you kind of need to, instead of fully investing in vision, invest in vision, but not at the full extent of everything else, and that balance is hard to strike. I understand the challenge here, but the big thing is that if you're in a situation where you need to flare a bush, and you're behind by this margin, you're probably thinking about doing something you shouldn't be. Like, if you're flaring the tri-bush, right, and you're as far behind as NRG is right now, you have to ask yourself why. Like, the only excusable reason is that you're taking your forward Treant from your sentry. And at that point, you're doing it that way because you have enough time to react anyway. Whereas scout traps, you can put those down after you see people show up in lane, and then you back away, and that actually gives you some time to maybe react or transition to a different area of the map at the right time. We do have the unpause coming through here, though. Have to see what GANKSTARS does. They're starting to move up a little bit.
Yep, moving that vision line up as well. Just putting a lot of those scout traps down. Getting the flares nice and hot as well. They're just going to be able to spy at NRG without too much of an issue. Juan Hernandez just there to clear out one of those scout traps. Does dash away as well. Sentry there is going to be a kind of a massive obstacle for GANKSTARS to actually engage on if they do want to kind of fight in NRG's jungle. NET is going to be there. Does actually get jumped on by Xenotech. Takes a little bit of damage. Bright Bulwark actually is going to be popped here for GANKSTARS, but hang on a second. Bradley's in a lot of sticky situation right now because that's delivered GANKSTARS to the backline of NRG. Gauntlet comes down as well to segregate Bradley from the rest of his team. He's just going to get taken out, no problem whatsoever. Tech finds his 6th kill of the game. This old school kind of, you know, these old guys on the block, a lot of knowledge behind them is just really coming forward here.
It really is. GANKSTARS are definitely showing experience, for sure. I think the big thing for me is that there's not really this sort of coherent play coming out of NRG. They haven't been able to group up, find any picks. They haven't been able to safely farm because they're not backing each other up. And as a result, GANKSTARS have a very overwhelming lead. Now, with all of that being said, we mentioned earlier that Lightning T on that Scarf can get out of control early in mid-game because of the amount of levels that you get in the jungle. We've got to remember that this is also a Scarf, and that Scarf sort of inherently does get out of control in the later game. We're still kind of far from that point, especially given the deficit they're at, though. So it's all about NRG just mitigating any damage that GANKSTARS can do whilst they have tempo.
Well, Lightning T is going to find himself in a little bit too far forward. Actually gets taken out by Vanes. GANKSTARS with complete control, it seems, of NRG's jungle. And Crystal Sentry isn't even going to find its way to the crystals down the bottom of the map. Just gets eliminated. That will be all 3 of the lives gone. And now GANKSTARS are just going to push in this lane with not too many other objectives to take, apart from that forward healing camp. And two little minions down that bottom camp as well at their fronts. GANKSTARS right now, they're running away with it. They've almost got a 10k gold lead. They're sitting at 9,000 right now. And you can see why they made it to the 2nd place in the Unified Championships. Their macro game has been on point.
It has, and a big thing you got to talk about right now is like this change to Vanes, at least in this matchup, does not look like it's done anything bad for GANKSTARS, right? Like they look really good. They're using Vanes very effectively, and he's playing with his team very effectively. So the synergy is definitely building. Games like the one they had against Rox Armada are critical for that. Those are kind of the crucibles that your team goes through, not the item, but the actual, crucible in other ways. But GANKSTARS now moving up a little bit. Can they find anything else? They've still got 25 seconds, until that Kraken spawns.
Yeah, they do. So they're going to be able to take that gold miner away, get 100 gold each for themselves. Wartreads is going to get popped. Juan Hernandez might be the target here, does dash away, but they're going to be hot on his tails. That Gauntlet is going to get laid down, and Lightning T does use the Crucible. Was that Crucible, or was that just his own reflex block just to get away? But they're still going to be able to take one member of NRG off the field. And that 15-minute clock has been sprung, AJ. And GANKSTARS, they're just going to lead them straight to the back.
Yeah, I like that play. Now going for the Kraken, GANKSTARS. I feel like they're in a great spot here. They're about 10,000 gold in the lead. That's not something easy to come back from for NRG. Lightning T kind of the last hope here if he can get a couple more items, but he's not particularly close at the moment.
Not one piece. I mean, we gotta look towards the later stages of the game now, because that Kraken is gonna lay down. It's a mighty raft down that lane. It's gonna at least take one of those turrets. You got to think, is there a way for NRG right now to come back into this one? I mean, we got to kind of pin our thoughts onto Lightning T right now. Can he get to a point in this game, or can he find a nice pick-off with maybe the help of Bradley using a passageway into a Bright Bulwark to find Arakizora or Xenotech, erase them out of the fight, and then hope for the best from there?
Honestly, if I'm Lightning T, I'm thinking about what I'm going to pick next game at this point. I think he needs to be going for something a little bit more pace setting, right? Like Scarf is not that hero. Lightning T is the guy on his team who makes things happen, and he just can't do that in this game. He hasn't had the situation where he's been able to be proactive. GANKSTARS right now, they're pushing him on the turret. They've got a Kraken up. Thankfully for NRG, they do have Scarf, which is great against Kraken.
Yep, that it is. That Spitfire doing a fair bit of damage to him. Kraken, about half HP right now. That turret going down is going to result in the base being open for NRG. Gauntlet time may be in process here. It does get laid down actually in the back of the base. That turret is going to go down with absolute ease. Arakizora just handily dealing with 3 members of NRG right now. Almost just deleting one. He might just be able to get away. Can't make it back to his base in time. Spitfire is going to come through as well as the Dragon's Breath. Arakizora does get that fountain to heal him up nice and safely. And Kraken is down. GANKSTARS only take 2 turrets off it. Could have ended the game, you might think. Bane's going fairly low from that Spitfire. They're going to re-engage on this one, actually deciding finally to exit the base. Lightning T just chasing them away. But GANKSTARS, they're 10k gold in the lead. They're 11-1 on the scoreboard. You got to think they're going to end the game shortly. It might just be now as Lightning T is going to get jumped on. Arakizora is going to be there. They're all very low. Can they just take him out? Yes, they can. Passageway from Bradley is going to lead him straight into his own base and into his own demise. GANKSTARS will find themselves possibly almost ending. Not just yet, because one, just spawning in time.
Yeah, I mean, that was close to being too little too late, honestly, but Juan is able to just barely convince GANKSTARS to back off. To be honest, GANKSTARS spent so long fighting after that Kraken push that Kraken is going to be up quite soon. They're able to get the jungle as well. There's not a single resource they're leaving up on the map that they don't have to for NRG. So GANKSTARS have a stranglehold on this game. NRG, for them to come back at this point, it's feeling more and more like, okay, GANKSTARS needs to make a mistake. It's not even like NRG can scale at this point, because GANKSTARS have hit critical mass. It's going to take too long for Lightning T to get there, and there's no way GANKSTARS will give them that time.
Absolutely not. I mean, we spoke about the experience, and Vane's coming onto the roster as well. Could he feel the shoes of Rekt? And he's certainly doing that now. And I gotta say, Rekt's performance after watching GANKSTARS for a fair while, it's just been astronomical. This guy sets up plays, makes things happen, but Vanes is doing just that as well. Gauntlet usage has been on point, might look for another one here. Massive silence does come out. In fact, a snare even from Bradley. This could be the final fight here. Gauntlet comes down before anything can actually happen. Xenotek actually gets the unrecanted frenzy off on Juan in the back line. Lightning T is the first casualty of the fight. The passageway is going to leave Bradley to safety and Juan to his demise. This will be GANKSTARS taking their first game in this best of 3 off of NRG, you can imagine.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way that NRG defend here. We've got a minion wave coming in for GANKSTARS. I love that flank play that Xenotek did right at the end. There's nothing Lightning he could do there. It's really bold, honestly, to pick a Scarf into Akashka anyway. That was the last pick, by the way, for NRG, in case you guys missed the draft. They locked that in as the final pick. No response from GANKSTARS to pick Akashka. Honestly, I think that was a bit of hubris coming in from NRG. I think they need to focus on things that Lightning T can use to really push the game in NRG's favor earlier. They can't try and wait until late game against Xenotek on Koshka. That's not going to happen.
Not going to happen. They're not going to win the first game. GANKSTARS are going to take that 1-0. But we're going to jump straight over to the desk, and they're going to break that game down a little bit more.
Thank you very much, guys. We are back at the desk, and well, GANKSTARS are looking pretty good. Let's bring it straight back to the draft to start off the conversation. Not convinced by the Scarf, I feel like, across the board here.
Yeah, it was kind of all three of us when it came out, were like, whoa, okay. Like,
Oh, a Scarf.
It was very interesting to pick up, given what was already on the board for GANKSTARS. And I understand what they wanted to do. They wanted to get into that late game and be able to just have it scale up super, super strong, along with the Idris, just do a lot of damage once you get to the late game. But the problem was when they got to the late game, they were still too far behind because GANKSTARS was able to just take control of the entire map.
So do we think this draft is just a little bit too off the wall with the Idris and the Scarf, both kind of fringe picks? Is that just... do they need to just focus more on picking meta stuff?
Yeah, I think the Idris is good, the Lyra is good, but they needed something like a Rhyme or you know, something that can stand its ground and use a Lyra heal to then put pressure on Koshka and Arden together, because that's the combo that they needed, is the Arden Vanguard, Koshka onto Scarf, and it worked a lot. And you can see that Scarf is just too squishy in jungle and didn't scale fast enough to do anything mid to late game.
Yeah, and we saw that GANKSTARS, once they got beyond the first couple of minutes, just start to really run away with things, and we have an example of that right here.
Yeah, in this replay here, you can see that they're engaging onto NRG, and you can see that Vane's actually item silences Bradley, so he couldn't fountain to save Lightning T in time. So that was a really good play by Vanes there with that item silence. And then from there, they get the ace, or not the ace, they get the turret down and end the game from there.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that was kind of just an example of how far ahead they were. But I think, the player to watch coming into this game was Vanes. How do we feel Vanes has lived up so far in that first game? Do we feel like that was the same kind of performance you'd expect out of Rekt?
I mean, after our last series, I'm not really going to be making any heavy claims off just one game, but it definitely did look very good for GANKSTARS. It obviously has some cohesion with the team already built up, which is great to see. They didn't look like they were, didn't look like there was one person making one decision, the other two going another way. That never really happened. So just from this first game, definitely looked pretty strong. We'll have to see, with a better draft, though, how NRG will be able to bring the fight to them.
So great signs of life so far. Now, looking at the side of NRG, how are we feeling about this team? Was it just purely compositional? Because obviously this is a brand new team to the VGA as well. This isn't like these guys have been around forever and like permanently competing at the professional level. Going in against a team like GANKSTARS, let's remember these guys came second in London. How do we feel they've done considering their opponent?
Yeah, I mean, they actually put up a good fight against Armada at the mobile invitationals, and I feel like this was just a bad draft on their part. They out-rotated a lot, too. GANKSTARS is superior in their rotations and their objective game. So I think NRG needs to recognize that and be able to counter that and protect their jungle and not let Xenotek just go. And he does really well with Koshka in every game that Xeno plays in the early game.
All right, so let's focus a little bit on Araki Zoro as well. Obviously, being the carry for GANKSTARS, how do we feel he had what was his impact during this game? Obviously, we've got a statistic on the screen, 8 CS per minute when he was in London. Do we feel like was his farming significant in this game, or was he impacting the game in a different way?
I feel like it was kind of all three members of GANKSTARS sort of impacting the game equally. There wasn't one really standout player for them in this first game. They just were very cohesive and moved as a unit, played as a unit, and that's one of the reasons why they were able to take over this game. Again, it was so much of it was just about map control, and you can't have map control unless all three players are playing at the same level and are being consistently at a point where they're taking fights and trades off of their opponents and able to continuously move up.
All right, well, it's about time we jump on into the draft for this one. Sweej, what are we anticipating coming out here? Obviously, Grubjaw banned away immediately.
Grubjaw's going to be banned away. Potentially, NRG needs to take Koshka if it's not banned here. Because if Lightning T can't play something that counters Koshka, they should just take it away. Or they might even first pick Sky if they really want Lightning T and Sky. But I feel like they're going to probably pick Baron if Juan plays the Baron, or even take... Oh, they're actually going to take Arden and go with the captain pick here instead of all those. But again, GANKSTARS has Lyra open. They have Idris open. That's a good combination that they can pick as well here. And Baron's open too. Baron Lyra is really strong to get, as we saw.
Yeah, and we've seen Iraqi Zoro play that Baron. That was something that he leaned on a lot in London. And I remember at the time that was quite surprising to see GANKSTARS going for such late game compositions. But it really worked out in a couple of series for them. And they are going to go straight for that Baron.
Yeah, last season they were one of the few teams that tried to make the Baron work before we got to London during the regular season. It never really worked for them then, which is why we were so surprised to see more focus on it again in London. It was one of the picks that we talked about a lot on the desk in London of wanting to see, can Iraqi Zoro actually play it to a competitive level, because the first couple of games we saw him on did not look very good, but by the end of it he was looking very solid with this pick, and now the pick is even stronger. So as long as he continues to perform, this could be a very strong selection for GANKSTARS.
And I think here they're probably going to ban Glaive potentially here, or Taka if they don't want to deal with it into a Baron. But if they ban Taka, that leaves Sky open for NRG. So let's see what GANKSTARS decides to do here. But I feel like Taka makes the most sense, or even potentially Glaive, or someone that they don't want. They're actually going to ban Idris away from Juan, because Juan is very proficient on Idris.
Yeah, and we saw that last game as well. He didn't really get an opportunity to shine because, you know, Idris definitely a lot stronger towards the later stages of the game. Do we feel like in Game 1, NRG's composition was just too heavily reliant on the late game? Like, they didn't actually have anything there to kind of prop them up during the early game so that they could get to that point?
That was exactly what I felt was their problem with their draft. They were so late game focused that they didn't really have an ability to let themselves get into the late game with a good position. It's okay to have a late game focused composition, but you have to be able to get to the late game without being too far behind for that late game composition to really come online. But now up against GANKSTARS with this Baron, you can't really go for a late game composition when there's a Baron on the other side of the fold.
And that's a smart ban there. Like I said, Koshka should have came out as a ban there. So nice job by NRG there, banning away Koshka, because Koshka Baron is actually a nice combination that helps enable Baron to get to that late game. I think here they're probably going to pick Lyra here, and then they're going to leave the last option open for a counter pick. Oh, they're going to go with Lance instead. Interesting.
Could we see the Taka Baron again? We saw that earlier on today, and it was obliterating health bars. Is that an option for GANKSTARS, or is that not going to work into an Arden?
Yeah, that's going to be a great pick. I think NRG needs to pick Taka, because Taka is actually not bad into Lance. He can kite in and dodge roots and Githian walls. So I think Taka should pick, and I know Lightning T does play Taka here, so I think they need to pick like a Black Feather Taka and just get onto that Baron, because Arden is an enabler. With a melee hero that can get onto Baron and a Vanguard, that's going to really shut Baron down and force him to buy defense against Taka. So let's see what they decided. But there's also Glaive open, so Glaive, Taka will be great into this combination. So they actually go with Sky. They're going to go with Sky here, and Sky's not that good into Lance. So let's see what they're going to decide for the lane here.
Yeah, so this is going to be the second time we've seen Sky today. The first time was very unsuccessful, it's fair to say. I would expect NRG to hopefully be able to pull something big out on this one. But if it goes towards the jungle, Lightning T, you know, we know this guy is a very mechanically skilled player.
Yeah, absolutely. He has a lot of mechanics. He likes the Sky pickup. He's used it in the past. It can really do some damage, but it'll be interesting to see where they go with it, because like Sweetie was mentioning, the Glaive is available, and Glaive Baron is a combo that at the Unified Championship in London GANKSTARS used that against Team Secret, and that was the game where Xenotech went absolutely insane. It was like 18-1, I think, for his KDA in that game. It was absolutely absurd. So letting that combo go over may not be the best of ideas.
Yeah, so I believe NRG are going to be looking at Glaive for a last pick, and then
Yeah.
it is going to come
And then
on through.
GANKSTARS, if they take Baptiste here, it's going to be GG against NRG because Baptiste Lance is going to shut down mobility of Sky and even Glaive because he can't afterburn. If he afterburn out of the Ordain, he'll get stunned. So if they pick Baptiste here, it's going to be a very strong composition into NRG's composition. So let's see what they decide on because they can also take Taka, honestly. Taka, Baptiste all work really well here into NRG's composition.
Yeah, so 10 seconds left to lock in this final pick for GANKSTARS. They're going to need something to go into that jungle. Unless we see the low-level solo queue jungle Lance, where you go the tension bow first and just burst people. Seems unlikely.
It's not low level. It has been played in Vainglory 8. Even last season, it was played a few times to great success. But not going to be the case here, as it is a Taka for the final pick coming from GANKSTARS. So this will be fun to see. This Glaive Taka matchup is always exciting because both of them want to be super aggressive early on.
And the Taka Baron as well. We are going to have to rush through this one, but what do you think of the draft, Sujay?
I like GANKSTARS draft.
Okay. I didn't mean quite that rush.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because Taka counter Sky along with Lance, it's really good. And then, you know, they're going to do a good job shutting down Sky.
I like both teams' drafts about evenly, and so just based on what we saw in Game 1, I'm going to have to go ahead and give that to GANKSTARS.
All right, well, we want to know what you guys at home think of the drafts as well. Get involved using that hashtag Vainglory8. Let us know who you're supporting and who you think is going to be able to take this series. Is it going to be 2-0 to GANKSTARS, or have NRG got more energy in the bank? Let's pass it over to our casters for the second game in this series.
Thank you very much, Munch. Cannot wait to get in this one. Not because Vanes is using that new, beautiful Lance skin, but we'll see if GANKSTARS can pull this out for a 2-0, or can NRG come through with a reverse sweep?
Well, you know, maybe not because Vanes is using the nice skin, but it certainly helps me. I'm more hyped because of it. I love this Lance skin. All right, let's talk a bit about the draft, though. You heard it from Sweejay. I think GANKSTARS does have a far superior draft. There's a bit of explosive potential here, though, for NRG. If they can find a pick early and really just get items on the table, maybe they can hit their spikes faster. Because Baron, this is a hero that needs, like, at least that tension bow to be really scary if he decides to go that build, which he probably will. He's got a Taka backing him up. But we've seen what happens in the mid-game, right? Like, what happens in the mid-game when you have Baron and Taka, if this Taka goes Crystal at the very least, is that if they pick a target, that target dies. There's not really much you can do about it.
Not at all. Yes, starting out with 2 weapon blades, but that can all change. That early clear, well, that is definitely going to help him with his early clear. See if he does want to go that crystal route, but you're not wrong. Araki Zoro, we've already seen what a Baron can do, and it is pretty disgusting when it gets ahead. And we all know what Araki Zoro, how good he is in this laning role. He's going to get an early back off, going to pick up some of that light armor, as well as another weapon blade. So he's going to have a little bit more survivability in the lane, coming up against one Hernandez on this Sky. Now we've seen a CP Sky, and now we've seen a weapon Sky up in the lane. I mean, Sweetjay put it perfectly there. Very, very easy. Well, CJ and Bacon. In fact, everybody on the desk, perfectly. They're going to have a very easy time of actually punishing the Sky in that regard to get on top of her. And if she gets locked down, Araki Zoro is just going to have a field day.
He is indeed. I want to bring one other thing up in the early game here before it gets to the point where it feels obnoxious given my commentary last game. I really want to see Radley put down more scout traps this time around. I'll return to this subject if he does, and I'll be like right on. But if he doesn't, again, that's a huge problem for me because last game, it was a big part of the reason why, as Sweejay said, the rotations were not as good from NRG. They didn't have the information to make good rotations, and they didn't have the presence of mind to be careful about the good rotations that GANKSTARS might be making. So that's going to be huge for me this time around. It's also going to be interesting to see what happens with Xenotech early here. Does look like he's going weapon. This changes the dynamic of Ataka quite a lot. It also changes the dynamic of the team fights a great deal, because it's not going to be that same level of burst with the sort of bleed just finishing someone off as they fade away after the Baron damage. It's going to be more about the extended fight. It's going to be more about Xenotech staying on top of Sky and killing her over the course of a longer duration. So I'll be interested to see if that pans out. I'm not entirely sure whether I would have gone weapon when we've seen Crystal earlier today and how devastating it can be, but maybe Xenotech has a particular plan or something he's particularly concerned about. For example, we know maybe dealing with Lightning T in a duel or something along those lines.
We'll see how it wants to work out. Elder Treant will go over to Lightning T down that bottom side. Xenotech has found himself in a little bit of a sticky situation, a little bit of bother, but Vaing's going to be there. Nice double Githian wall, in fact. We'll be able to get the Impale off. It does actually land onto Lightning T. Xenotech going very, very low here. Does go straight into that little rice box. It's going to be able to run away. Too much of an issue. Rocky Zoro is going to come through as well. Bradley is going to find the Vanguard on Vains. That's going to be about it. Well, not Vanguard, it'll be Blood Brothers onto Vains, but that's going to be about it. I mean, GANKSTARS at this moment in time, they're heavily itemizing weapon power here. It'd be very, very easy for NRG to go, okay, we're just going to build a whole lot of armor then.
Alright, so this is interesting too. Sky is pretty heavily committed to weapon damage at this point. Earlier on, I wasn't sure if it was just a couple of weapon blades, but we're seeing that Weapon Sky. Now, Weapon Sky certainly has the potential to do some nice dueling, and also in the mid-game, if Sky does not fall behind early and can get like a Starblade breaking point or something like that, and probably duel Iraqi Zoro, maybe even Xenotech. My concern is that it does not really spike in the same way as those heroes can later on, and they don't have anything which is actually going to be doing a particularly large amount of damage later. So this is an interesting decision. It suggests to me that NRG does not want to play an extended game. I think in terms of them as a team and what they've shown themselves to be good at, that's arguably the right decision, but against this composition in particular, it feels a little bit dicey to me, which sort of shows perhaps a weakness in the draft.
What's really interesting to me, at least, is that this Sky pick's been massive. And it's been played multiple different ways. She's just picked up Poison Shiv, by the way, as well. Like you mentioned, she's played Crystal Power, but now she's playing this Weapon Power. And someone that actually has been practicing her a fair bit, in solo queue at least, is Xenotech. Like, his solo queue carry's got a few games of Sky on there, a few games of Jungle Sky, going that CP route. And this hero has really just risen in popularity, where last spring, or spring even, not last spring, literally the spring just gone, it was kind of seen as this pick that you picked it and everybody was like, okay, so it's not that strong because it's like 0 and 6 at this point in the time, and it wasn't really taken all too seriously in a lot of these games. But now a lot of these teams are going, actually no, she is really strong because she can be flexible pull rolls as well.
Who needs Crystal Power, Jaws? Neither of these teams do.
No one does.
This is really interesting. I don't know, Lightning T probably going to pick up some Crystal Power a bit later on with like an Aftershock, but I feel like this is to the benefit of GANKSTARS, right? The fact that everyone's going Weapon Power. Because on Juan Hernandez and on Lightning T with this proc build, like, there's not enough damage to justify the amount of defense that they're going to have to build, right? Like, if, for example, you were playing Black Feather, that character sort of intrinsically has enough damage that you can, like, 2 items in, pick up an Atlas Pauldron, and not really feel like you're losing out on good damage, because your Execute just scales with their missing health anyway. On someone like a Glaive or a Sky, you need a lot of damage to do good damage later into the game, whereas someone like Xenotech isn't worried about being tanky as much because he can just dodge around the fights, and someone like Iraqi Zoro isn't worried about being tanky because he's got such long range and CCO immunity on his jump. I feel like NRG gets the bad side of this deal with Electric Crystal.
Hang
Here
on
we
a
go,
minute.
though.
Speaking of bad side of the deal, Iraqi Zoro definitely finding that one. And in fact, they're just going to go straight back into this one-on-one. Hernandez has got himself a Xenotech on his face. Does end up fighting away with that one. And all started from a death from above from Juan Hernandez landing on Vains. Xenotech, though, managed to find himself on the back line, and Juan had to just back off there. Luckily for Iraqi, though, he was straight underneath his turret without no problem at all.
Yeah, interesting attempt at a fight there. A little bit more damage coming out of, for example, Lightning T. If he went straight weapon, would have probably been able to pick up the kill, but so far he's just got a Storm Crown. Interesting that he's not going for the banner into Aftershock build. I think, given the fact that NRG want to fight earlier than GANKSTARS, that probably would have been the right decision this game. But this certainly does give him an even faster clear, which might have been what he was looking for. That does allow him to avoid Xenotech running in and stealing his camps as easily. GANKSTARS, though, they're definitely getting the better end of the deal, with the game pace being as slow as it is. No kills by almost 8 minutes. NRG, I feel like the onus is on them, I've said this a few times, to really put the pressure on. Alright, so Xenotech Gonna be in the shop here. Got to be a little
Hang on
careful.
a second. Yeah, they might be in a lot of trouble here. Afterburn away, actually. Lightning T's completely out of the fight right now. That shot buy was almost devastating for NRG. Have to just back away rather sharpish. I mean, Juan Hernandez, not even using death from above there, but now, like you said, the onus is on NRG to try and make something happen. They've got the gauntlet. They've got Lightning T's ability to isolate a target, but they're just giving up map objectives. That's a big goal miner to GANKSTARS.
It is indeed. Let's revisit Xenotech's items real quick. Got to update our stats on Crystal Power. Because he is actually going for the proc build, which is interesting. I thought earlier when he was going double weapon blade, and later on when he got a 6 sims, that maybe he was going for a more conventional weapon build, but he is going for the proc build that Taka sometimes go for. I like that. I think it's going to help with the burst. So this is not so dissimilar from the full crystal build we saw earlier. In terms of function, it's just a little bit different in terms of when it spikes and when it falls off, right? Because this build actually spikes maybe even a little bit earlier because of that tension bow being very effective early and much cheaper than a Shadow Glass.
Whew. Speaking of spiking early, Araki Zoro just showing Juan Hernandez a couple of rockets he's had in his back pocket for a little while. Vainglory is going to barrel roll forward, but isn't going to be able to find anything at all. That's got to be one of my favorite animations, in all honesty, with this new skin, his barrel roll, rather than the traditional tumble.
Is it actually a barrel roll, though? Because he does, like, spin around the axis going forwards, like the Z-axis.
A barrel roll.
Rather than around the X-axis, like forward over himself.
Is that not a barrel roll? He just did it there. That's a barrel roll.
That's not.
I don't know what that is, but that might be one dead
sky
sky if he's not careful. Impale doesn't quite land. Death from above actually lands on 2 members of GANKSTARS. Vonsi, whoa, hang on a second. As Xenotech jumps into the backline, Bradley almost falling. Juan Hernandez just took an X-Retsu, and that was the end of his life. It'll be GANKSTARS picking up first blood, and they're going to pick up the first turret as well if they're not careful.
Oh, that could be big.
Hang on a second. Lightning T's in a lot of trouble. Vonsi, not Vonsi, Xenotech. Vonsi's not. It just reminds me of Vonsi's play, but Xenotech on on this target just demolishing Lightning T. Does end up going down. That turret will be destroyed. That'll be GANKSTARS picking up 2 kills and another turret.
This is the thing, right? Like I feel like NRG needed to make some of their plays earlier and go builds that allowed them to do it. They have not done so. Juan Hernandez does have, in addition to that Sar Blade, now also the Poison Shiv. So this is a bit of a spike for Juan. It's not quite the same spike as like the old Sar Blade Breaking Point build that we see Skies go all the time, because she really does get a lot out of Breaking Point. She's going to be doing some good damage. It's going to be all about can she get enough down in these fights. Here comes the
hang on a minute, AJ, because this fight is going to get started up straight away. Vainglory went really, really low to start that one off, but Juan Hernandez kiting back perfectly. Xeno taking a lot of trouble now. Is going to have to kite and wait for the damage for Araki Zoro, but it wasn't there. And now NRG pushing forward. They managed to find their first kill of the game. Lightning T maybe looking for an afterburn, and here does find one on to Araki. He ends up falling as well to Lightning T. Vane's in a lot of trouble. Death from above is going to zone him away. That's going to be a nice pushback onto one, but it's not going to matter at all. Bradley's going to finish the kill, and that will be NRG with an ace.
That was a very nice fight, and it came at an opportune moment for NRG. They just picked up an Aftershock on Lightning T, so he was power spiking. Juan Hernandez got his Poison Shiv. That's your opportunity as the sort of more mid-game centric team to start doing some serious work. This being said, Araki Zoro now has 2 items. When we see our next fight, you've got to watch out for just the burst that can come out from Xenotech pairing up with Araki. Xenotech's actually trying to stop these backs and stop NRG from healing up, maybe allowing his team to push back, rubber band, and find something off the back of that fight.
There's the X-Retsu went on to Lightning T. Lightning T is going to use that afterburn. Is going to get the stun on Xenotech, but here comes Vane's nice double root. And Araki Zoro is going to come through with the double missile. Lightning T almost falling instantly to that one. Xenotech does use another X-Retsu. Bradley now on the retreat. That Crystal Sentry is going to get taken out by GANKSTARS. Arncana not really finding anything. Araki Zoro leaps forward. Another double rocket. Another double impale as well. There comes Death from above, but they already find 1 kill. Bradley end up falling in that one instantaneously. As Araki Zoro jumps forward again. Juan Hernandez in a lot of trouble. Araki Zoro is there. They're going to tank up that turret. Xenotech with the last auto attack will finish that kill. And that'll be Vanes, Araki Zoro, and Xenotech now taking their second turret of the game.
That was very nice. In those elongated fights, there comes a point as NRG where you just have to bail, because Araki Zoro is an unstoppable train once he has the sort of advantage, the Atari, right, in these fights, because of the fact that every auto attack reduces the cooldown on the jump jets. If you're running from him and not forcing him to lose something for just attacking every time he can, which is something that Baron, you got to realize, Baron attacks very slowly, especially with no attack speed. So normally in a fight, in a fair fight, Baron is at risk every time he commits to a basic. But if you're running, because he has extreme range with every level of his ultimate, and the reset on his jump jets, he's just going to go out of control the moment you decide you can't fight him. So at that point, it really needed to be a full retreat rather than NRG sort of sitting, for example, in the bush across from the Treant. Like, why did they decide to move that close rather than just running to their turret?
Well, they
That's
don't want to stop
risk.
fighting here. Another fight does end up breaking out. He is going to find himself on the wrong side of a Githian wall, but that Death from Above is going to just make sure GANKSTARS know their place. They end up backing off. Now NRG, they need to find their way back into this game. They're in a 2k, or well, pretty much 3k deficit at this current moment in time. With those lanes being, with the lane being cleared out from Meraki Zoro, it's going to be fairly easy for them now to generate a lot of that vision that AJ seems to love. Near and dear to his heart right now. But you look at the vision on the side of NRG right now. Hardly anything. In fact, there is no scout traps on the map whatsoever.
I can't look at it. I want to, but I can't.
Well, you're not going to have to look at it for much longer as a double impale does end up landing as well as double Githian wall. Gauntlet is going to come down. He's going to stun up Xenotech there. One hand and is just dashing, dip, dive, ducking and dodging. He's going to be able to find anything. He ends up finding, actually, he does take out Xenotech in the midst of it all. Meraki Zoro trying to kite back, but it's not going to be enough. Another 1-for-1 trade, but Vains in a 2v1 situation. Captain versus Captain and Jungler does use that power roll to get over the wall. Going to chase him down. Not sure they're going to be able to get the ace. Vains is very, very tanky. The NRG come up big with that fight.
That was an interesting one. I think the Slumbering Husk did so much work there for... Who picked that up? Let's see, it was Bradley. Yeah, he felt quite low, but the Slumbering Husk really messed with the plan for him to get burst down before moving on to other targets. Juan Hernandez does fall, but still, I mean, a massive fight for NRG. It's all about the fact that Meraki Zoro had to extend a little bit too deep into them before he could keep the fight moving and start doing the damage he wanted to. And as a result, things like Death from Above could be saved for the opportune moment right after jump jets had been put on cooldown, and he wasn't going to be able to get out of it.
Well, GANKSTARS now, with maybe a little bit of a misstep, I would say that was actually a perfectly timed gauntlet from Bradley. Being able to section off Xenotech from the rest of his team. But now, both teams know exactly where each other are. 15 minutes is on the clock, meaning that Kraken is on the board, is ready for the taking. Tornado Trigger is finished, as well as an infusion is picked up from Meraki Zoro. He wants to fight now. Vains doesn't find the Githian wall. Could this still be their time? That gauntlet is down for a little while now. Vains still not being able to find anything. That'll mean GANKSTARS now just retreating.
They are indeed, and I think this is smart. When you've burned your cooldowns, your engagement options aren't there. NRG could punish you. They've really got to be careful, especially about Glaive Afterburns. That's the one you do not want to have happen onto Xenotech or Iraqi. Presence of mind, extremely important here for GANKSTARS.
Yeah, that it is. Death from Above does come down. Vains finds a nice double root, nice double Githian wall as well. And now Xenotech's getting soloed out by Juan Hernandez. That Gauntlet not already doing all too much now for the side of NRG. A nice double Githian wall will just mean the end of one. That'll be a nice kill coming through for Meraki Zoro. Can they find anything more? Bradley actually on the sidelines is going to get taken out, as well as another rocket finding Lightning T. GANKSTARS maybe coming up with a third, well, the second win, in fact, of this best of three. Nothing seems to be stopping them right now.
Yeah, that's an example of the kind of fight you cannot afford to take as NRG. It's where you get crowd controlled that way. There was a two-man root from Vains and a two-man stun. Meraki Zoro only had one person to worry about. He's going to be able to do good damage there. Same thing with Xenotech. The turrets are very, very vulnerable to a Baron this late in the game, but Meraki Zoro actually tanked that. So he needs to get out of there. Only one is going to be able to be pushed by GANKSTARS.
Well, you could say Meraki Zoro is pretty vulnerable to the turrets as well.
That's true.
Take a little bit of damage. Only a little bit. It was all planned. Don't worry, AJ. It's all planned. GANKSTARS now. Solid advantage. Those tier 3 boots being picked up by Meraki Zoro as well. He's going to be nice and safe in these fights. And Kraken is still on the board, still looming over NRG. And they find their way back into this game. It's a 6,000 gold lead. Only 5 minutes ago, it was 4,000. That gold ever stretching forward. Vains trying to go for the cheeky impale. Did find one, but can't really find all too much else. NRG on the retreat now.
There's 2 Atlases on the side of NRG. It's pretty critical that they land one of those onto Meraki Zoro. Juan also just picked up a Metal Jacket. Will it do enough?
Oh, that's exactly what they're doing. Araki Zoro just free hitting in the backline. There goes one. Here comes another one. If Bradley's not careful, they're going to jump jets forward. Lightning taking a couple of rockets to the back. Xenotech finding the X-Retsu on the Elder Tree. And there comes the kite in. Lightning T in a whole world of hurt. Is it going to fall down? That's the question. Another X-Retsu. Xenotech almost going down. Lightning T makes it back to the base. But Araki Zoro just chasing Bradley down. Iron Cannon just going a little bit wide. Jump jets. Bradley, that's the end of your life. You're going back to the base. Kraken on the board, on the cards for Xenotech and the rest of GANKSTARS. This could be them taking game number 2. And my goodness, what's showing from them.
Yeah, GANKSTARS with this Kraken definitely set for a game-winning push. It's on Lightning T to do some kind of a steal here. That's the only way for NRG to really stay in this game convincingly. He is waiting in the wings, but the Kraken isn't falling quickly enough. He just had to burn after burn to get out of there. He won't be able to steal it without something like that to do the damage he needs. And in fact,
he won't be able to steal it if he's dead, AJ. He's just going to go down instead. Araki Zoro does take him out. Juan Hernandez in the front line. You're not too long for this world, my friend. It's 2-2 on this Baron. Ace comes through for GANKSTARS. Kraken as well. That is it. Bradley looking all sad up in his base. GANKSTARS, they're going to just walk this Kraken down the lane, and that will be game number 2 going over to them when they do manage to crack that crystal.
Yeah, there's not really much hope of the defense here. In fact, GANKSTARS don't even really need to wait for the Kraken. Only one turret left available. Jaws, this was a very convincing performance from GANKSTARS. Perhaps slightly better from NRG than game number 1, but regardless, GANKSTARS showing us that they are still the team we saw in London, even though Rex has left the lineup and even though Vanes has joined. These are guys you got to watch out for.
Well, there goes the crystal, there goes the game, and there goes the best of 3. GANKSTARS will take that one 2-0. And you got to say, NRG with being the new kids on the block, this is going to be a rough first week for them. But we're going to jump straight over to the desk. Sweet J Bacon, take it away to break that game down even further.
There we have it. What a convincing series from GANKSTARS in the end. There was questions about their roster, but they definitely seemed comfortable coming into that one. Now, going into some analysis of that game, let's start all the way at the beginning with the draft, right? How do we feel that one's panned out? Because it definitely feels like Baron has been a huge factor, not just in this series, but across the course of today.
Yeah, I mean, Baron has shown up absolutely massive thus far today. There's a reason why a lot of teams have been banning it or picking it very early in their draft, because it has been having such a huge impact, and it's just so strong in general.
Yeah, and teams need to be careful to pick squishies like Sky, etc., into a Baron and Taka.
I mean, not to pick.
Yeah, not to pick. Yeah, they need to be careful to pick, not to pick a Sky into Baron Taka with double tension bow proc and aftershock proc Taka. It worked out really well, and you can see like Weapon Sky just didn't work too. I don't know why they Weapon Sky. They should Weapon the Glaive and then did a CP Sky potentially, because CP Sky with Lightning T can hard carry. But GANKSTARS played really well. I was really impressed with Vanes actually. Vanes landed a lot of roots, a Githin wall that just set up the engages so well, locked the heroes down for Iraqi and Xenotech to then delete Juan or Lightning T.
Yeah, speaking of Xenotech as well, he had quite an interesting build, but we'll talk about that after this replay.
Yeah, in this replay, this is just going to be one of those fights where GANKSTARS just are able to find a situation where they can come out on top. Even though it doesn't look like they're going to start off with it, the burst that they have is just massive onto those squishier targets. And as they just continue to be patient, really, and wait for their opportunities throughout the game. But once they had that burst online, the double proc build on the Taka, like Sweet J was saying, it's kind of the adaptation of Baron in general, how Baron has changed as a hero, where he used to be this late game scaling, wasn't really great until he got super strong and just did this massive buildup of damage. Now he's much more of a burst-focused hero. And because of the change to his jump jets, where those 2 rockets come out almost instantaneously, we've been seeing a lot of tension bow Barons, but the tension bow aftershock Taka with a Baron, it was just so much burst. They could basically pick a target and just delete them.
All right, so now that the series is done, how do we feel about our player to watch? Vanes stepping into Rex shoes. To me, it definitely felt like Vanes is fitting in with GANKSTARS awfully well.
Yeah, he did really well. His positioning was great. I mean, he was where he needed to be. Like, you saw that one last replay when Sky went to the wall. He positioned perfectly to then stun her into the wall and then let Taka kill her. So Vanes played he enabled a lot of those fights to happen and a lot of the aces to then result. So really good job on Vanes' part and playing Lance like really, really well.
Yeah, and flashy not just in terms of his gameplay, also in terms of his skin. It was He was looking pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it looked like Vanes is fitting in with this team extremely well.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's all it takes. You know, if you take two players, put them head to head, you know, sometimes the player that you would generally think would not come out on top of that head to head is a better fit for a specific team just because of the way their personality is. And that seemed to be one of the big things here. When GANKSTARS parted ways with Rec, that was one of the big things they cited, was they wanted everyone to be fully on the same page, fully on board with the same idea. Vanes clearly, from this game at least, is on board with the two teammates, and they're on board with him, and it worked out for them.
So did any of the players in this game surprise you in either a positive or a negative way? Did anyone kind of underperform in this one?
Yeah, I think Lightning T underperformed. He made some plays, but I think Lightning T and Juan just didn't play very comfortable, and they weren't decisive as a unit, because both of them, they play together a lot, and to see them not have that synergy really surprised me for sure.
Do we think that could be kind of stage jitters? You know, this is the first time that Lightning T is actually playing in the VG8, despite qualifying twice. This is his first game. Could that be the case here?
It's always a possibility, but at the same time, it's still even though you're playing in the VG8, it is your first time playing in the VG8 on such a big stage. You're still playing comfortably from home. Like it shouldn't be that much of a factor that it affects you for 2 games in a row. Obviously, we'll see next week if they look a bit more comfortable, but definitely would like to see those two step up next week.
All right, so final thoughts on this matchup, guys, then. GANKSTARS with the 2-0.
Yeah, GANKSTARS played superior. Their shot calling, their macro play, their rotations, and all 3 players just had really strong focus around what they needed to do. They all knew and understood. So that tells me their communication is really strong. So nice job on GANKSTARS. NRG needs to kind of clean up a few things, especially on their draft. Weapon Sky is not meta and has not been meta for a very long time.
Yeah, this Weapon Sky was definitely an interesting one on that one. But let's take a look at how the tournament is panning out across the course of the bracket. Over on the off-stream game, Hammers have actually taken their game against Nova 2-0. A little bit surprising to some people. I know Nova, quite a lot of people had their eyes on that team, but Hammers taking that one for now. We'll be able to see them in more depth next week. But NRG GANKSTARS now 2-0 in favor of GANKSTARS, and that leaves us with 1 game remaining today. Tempo Storm up against Echo Fox, and that is going to be the matchup that we're going to start to talk about now as we head into the final matchup of the day. This is very much the epitome of this old versus new storyline that we've been talking about. Tempo Storm, one of our teams to watch, they're coming in with this exact same roster from last season. Whereas you've got NRG, Echo Fox, totally new team to the VG8.
It was kind of strange to think about it as being old versus new when Tempo Storm has only been in Vainglory for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But they are still the team that is returning versus the team that's newly entering. And I think this is another one, along with the off-stream matchup that I'm definitely going to want to go back and watch over. But it kind of will give us an idea of where these teams stand. I still stand by that Tempo Storm is going to be one of the teams to watch. I think they're a definite dark horse here. But at the same time, Echo Fox, after their past performances in Vainglory 8, now have a new roster, new team that just qualified for Vainglory 8. They are also going to be looking to step up in a big way and can try and make a statement here.
Yeah, and looking across this roster, Suijay, is there anyone that really stands out on the lineup of Echo Fox specifically?
Yeah, I think Erwin really stands out. He's a very consistent laner, very competent, proficient on heroes such as Celeste. So that's something that we definitely need to watch out. Yazru really supports Erwin and is very flexible in a lot of the heroes that he can play. And Slada tends to be a captain that plays a little bit passive and more cautious. And I think that he's going to be able to help enable Erwin and Yazru to win some key fights here.
And their opponents obviously going to be Tempo Storm. This is a roster we've seen a few times before. These guys were in London. These guys were in last split as well. Lost Boy Toff, Selena, and Hyde. Now, this is a roster that surprised people last season. They really came in swinging.
Yeah, they came into Vainglory 8 from Challengers and then went on in their 3 weeks of Vainglory 8 play. They got a 2nd place and a 3rd place finish in those 3 weeks, and then showed up to London and really underperformed pretty heavily. I mean, Lost Boy Toff is a name that everybody knows. It's if you've been following Vainglory for any decent length of time, he is an absolute playmaker out of the captain position.
For sure.
But the big question mark for me with Tempo Storm was in London and is now, has the hero pool deepened for Hyde and Selena?
And Hyde is going to be our player to watch for this one as well, because he was definitely one of the players that, when it came to London, didn't really perform to the level that us and the viewers at home were expecting him to step up to. So now, in this matchup specifically, this is a great opportunity